Okay. All right, everybody, welcome to Engineering 102. Before I get into the announcements, did everybody get the code? Okay. All right. So welcome, everybody, to Engineering 102, Introduction to CAD. My name is Dr. Michelson. In addition to being your college's Associate Dean, I'm going to be your instructor for the wonderful world of AutoCAD and Inventor. A couple of housekeeping items. So number one, my office hours for this class are going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 to 3. Tuesday, Thursday by appointment. But I think what will probably be most accessible for everybody are the Friday help sessions, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But they're going to be in room 3235 in the engineering building. So that's on the third floor, closest to where the structures lab is, on that end of the building. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. I did, on the QR code, I did have some questions about the software installation. I've had a couple students tell me they had some issues, but were there any super major problems that I should be aware of? I'm just getting a pulse on, was everybody able to install it for the most part?
So when I logged in, I used my Marshall email, but it didn't have it available to download. It only had it available for me to purchase.
That's weird. Okay, so thank you for telling me that. I've had a couple of students that have pointed that out, but it seems to be intermittent for some reason.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
okay, and that's what Friday is going to be for in case there's any issue. Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and get into it. What I'm going to do today is sort of housekeeping day. I'm going to use this as sort of a overview of the course operation, the syllabus, how the grade is computed. I run a pretty structured class. I'm usually known for being pretty organized in terms of knowing what's due, when, and whatnot. You'll have a pretty good idea on that. But hopefully after today, it'll be crystal clear how this class is going to operate. Now, I'm going to violate sort of an unspoken PowerPoint rule by showing you my best slide first. So this is a little bit about me. This is my daughter, Stephanie. So one problem is that she was supposed to stay a baby, and she kept getting bigger. She kept growing up, and she wasn't supposed to grow up. So that's a problem I haven't quite figured out yet. So if anybody has any ideas on what I need to do about that, let me know, because she's growing up too fast. She wasn't supposed to. That's a joke, not funny. All right, that's my daughter Stephanie. That's my wife Becky there in the bottom right. Like I said, I'm the associate dean here for the college. So I imagine you might have gotten an email from me here or there just about college business and whatnot. But I also am a faculty here in the civil engineering department. I got my PhD from WVU, and I am a registered professional engineer here in West Virginia. Civil engineering for you mechanicals and electricals is a pretty broad area. And so, like, for example, Dr. Waite, he's a civil engineer, but his background's in water resources and environmental engineering. I'm a structural engineer, and so my passion is bridges. I'm a bridge engineer. So I do bridges and steel design. That's sort of my my background. I'll go ahead and pull up our first collective CAD drawing, which is the floor plan for the building. So can everybody see the laser pointer? The little laser pointer? Okay. So on the bottom, there's 3rd Avenue, right? So you can see the traffic going across 3rd Avenue. And here's the lobby. This is the main entrance to the building. So if you take the elevators to the 2nd floor, you come out, you're right here. And so if you're standing like right there, that's where you're looking at the big glass windows overseeing 3rd Avenue. So if you go down the hallway to the left, that's where my office is in the big dean suite. I imagine, do many of you have Justin as an advisor? So if you know where Justin's office is, that's where my office is in the same spot. If you're just coming in, you might have to find a spot in the back. So it's a cozy day. So and I'll talk about that here in a bit. But yeah, my office is back here. I'm in the dean suite. If you have Justin as an advisor, or as an if he's your advisor, his office is back here. And Hussein's office is back here, and I'll talk about Hussein here in a second. So I mentioned this just to, again, give you a little background on what I do, but I have a very specific point. I was going to make here. So a lot of what I do when I'm not teaching and being the AD is a lot of my research is on basically developing short span bridge system applications and seeing them implemented in the field. So you can see a couple images of some bridges that I've been involved in. The one on the top left, that's in Muskingum County, Ohio. So that's near Zanesville, if anybody has any Ohio geography, in their background. This one on the bottom left, that's in Iowa. That's in near Independence, Iowa. That image on the bottom right is a finite element analysis. And I mentioned that just because this is some really cool advanced 3D analysis looking at the stresses on this bridge. But while this is some pretty advanced analysis, you'd be surprised how many skills that I used to create that model that I would have learned in a class like this. So the skills that we learn in here, they're going to translate into work for the rest of your career. Okay. I want to set the stage for what you're able to do with this material by telling you a little bit of a story. It's a true story. It's kind of funny, but I thought you'd get a kick out of it. So I want to show you this. This is a map or a plat showing a shopping center. And specifically, how many of you are aware or have been to Princeton? Anybody, Princeton? Okay, so everybody know the Kroger's in Princeton? You know what I'm talking about? That's the Kroger's in Princeton. So this is, let's see, so this is Ingleside Road, that's Stafford Drive, and that's the Kroger's in Princeton. Just to give you kind of some orientation in case you're aware. All right. So when I was in undergrad, I worked during my summers and during break at a firm there that did mostly site civil work, so like site planning. For example, they did the site planning on the Chili's in Princeton, right there off the interstate. So they laid that whole thing out. And but one of the other things that we would do is a lot of land surveying. So somebody would come and they would need the property boundary demarcated. They would need the major features of the site located for a number of reasons. Sometimes we would do surveying if there were two neighbors that didn't like one another and they wanted to put up what we would call a grudge fence. We kind of funny term for that. But the most critical reason for doing a survey like this is usually because of financing. So in this instance, this was like 15 years ago, but at the time what was happening was there was a real estate deal in the background, and they were wanting somebody was wanting to buy or sell this piece of property, and this is like a multi-million-dollar real estate deal, and typically for financing reasons, the lender will need what's called an ALTA survey, an American Land Title Association survey, and it's really, really detailed. So much so that you have to locate, here, let me zoom in a little bit. You have to locate every single parking spot, every single property corner, every single water meter, every single aspect of the property, everything. And it was funny, they called us, and they called the firm, and they called us Monday, Tuesday. If you're coming in late, you might have to stand for a bit. We're going to get some chairs a little bit later. When they called us on like a Monday or Tuesday, and they said, can you give us an ALTA survey by Friday? They wanted this done by Friday. And we went, okay, if you want it, it's going to cost this much. And they said, can you take a check? And my boss sort of went, dang it, I didn't think they'd say yes. And they did. So then we had to do the work. So I spent Wednesday and Thursday, I was there at the site doing land surveying like all day. I'm having to locate every parking spot, every water meter, the property boundaries, the right-of-way, all of it. And I show up at the office at about 7 o'clock in the morning at a time that Monster energy drinks didn't make me as jittery as they do now. And I sat there for about 5.5 hours, and I produced this drawing. And I gave it to my bosses. I say 5.5 hours, probably closer to 5. I gave them their first draft at noon. They printed it out and sort of stared at it for about an hour and marked it up. And we went through a couple of round of revisions, and we got that drawing out by close of business on Friday. And then the real estate deal fell through, and they didn't even buy the property anyway. So we got paid, but you know, the deal fell through and we didn't, it ended up not mattering. So, but that happens in the real world. The point I want to make to you is I imagine that there is a contingent of students in here that have used a CAD program before. Like how many of you have ever used like AutoCAD, Inventor, anything like that? So I got a few of you that have raised your hands. I didn't. When I was in your shoes, when I was in undergrad taking my introductory CAD class, I had never used a CAD program to save my life. Never. I took one class and I went to work. And what I'm saying is I was able to produce this, okay? I'm not patting myself on the back by saying I'm some whiz at AutoCAD. I don't think I am. But the point I'm making is I'm trying to impart the skill set upon you so that you can do something like this, okay? My goal is to develop the skills necessary in all of you so that you can produce some real world schematics if needed, okay? That's my goal, okay? And if I can do it, I know you can. I promise, okay? All right. So, funny story aside, let's get to business, okay? So let's talk about the way the class is going to operate, grades, all that jazz. Okay. Okay. So first off, let's talk about the grade. So the attendance is worth 15%. I say homework, it's really more assignments, and you'll understand what I mean by that, because the homework is sort of designed to be done in class, but we'll talk about that here in a bit. There are 2 exams. There is not a final. We do not meet for finals week, okay? There is one assignment due during finals week, but we do not meet as a class during finals week, unless you want to. That's what I thought. Everybody's like, about that. Sorry. My voice is going. This is my 3rd class today. All right. There's no textbook for the class, okay? All the material I make for me, and I don't really think it's all that necessary for a class like this, but there are 3 things that you need. And I see that the vast majority of you brought item 1, which is the laptop, okay? I'm glad you brought the laptop. A Windows laptop is preferable, but if you have a Mac, it's not the end of the world, okay? AutoCAD is available on a Mac. Inventor is not, but you can access Inventor through Cameo, and I'll get to that here in a bit. 2 other things that you'll need, or 1, I strongly encourage you to get a mouse, particularly a mouse with a wheel, okay? For those of you that have used, how many of you have used AutoCAD or Inventor before? How many of you get what I'm talking about with this? So for those of you that don't, being able to use the wheel to pan and zoom in an engineering drawing will take an assignment that, like if you don't have this, it could take a 30-minute assignment and turn it into 3 hours. Just because, I'll be honest, using the trackpad, don't. No. I really strongly suggest that you get a mouse with a wheel on it, because scrolling zooms, and if you press in the wheel like it's a button, it will pan. So I think that's really valuable. The other thing that I think you need is, or not think you need, you will need, is an engineer scale. Now I want to show you, this is an engineer scale. So it sort of looks like a triangular ruler, okay? It sort of looks like this. You can get these on Amazon for, like $10. But I sort of want to make the point that this is an engineer scale. This is an architect scale. See how they kind of look the same? I'm being a little facetious when I say this, but one of the differences is that this says engineer and this says architect. But I know I might seem a little facetious, but the real point I'm making is it's really easy to go on Amazon and search engineer scale and just buy the first thing that pops up, and then it comes in the mail and it's the wrong one, okay? Now, we're not going to use an engineer scale until a little bit later in the semester, but, just make sure you buy the one that says engineer on it, okay? So I just say that now. It won't become an issue until about, right around spring break, but make sure you get one. Okay. So yeah, engineer scale, not an architect scale. Okay, so attendance. Attendance is logged. So I use the QR code, which we were talking about before class. It seems like a lot of engineering professors do that. I will have the QR code on the announcement slide. I usually leave the announcement slide up for a couple minutes as everybody comes in. I am not going to count anybody late today. It's the first day, and I'm sure everybody was trying to find where the room is, and that's okay. I'm not worried about that. But in future lectures, please try and be on time. The way I count people late is if by the timestamp, if they didn't scan it the first go around, I'll pull the QR code up at the beginning of class, and then I'll pull it up at the end. I am usually pretty easy to get along with in terms of, if you've got a university student absence, if you're sick, if you've got something going on, I'm pretty easy to get along with. The one thing that is kind of tough is I usually am pretty good about posting attendance grades and whatnot regularly. Like I don't think I'm one of those professors that it's week 7 of the semester and you have no idea what your grade is. You're going to know what your grade is as you're going. If I'm a human being, I make about 87 mistakes a day, I'm sure. But if you notice a mistake on the attendance grade, let me know. But if it's like 7 weeks down the road, like, hey, I was checking my attendance and I saw that 7 weeks ago you counted me absent and I was there, it's like that's kind of tough. So just make sure you're monitoring it pretty regularly. So I'll say I post stuff pretty. I'm pretty on top of that. I am recording the lecture right now. I'm recording the screen capture. I'm recording the sound, and then that thing's recording me. I will take this lecture and post it to a YouTube playlist that's linked on Blackboard. But I'll tell you, so I'm teaching this right now from 12 to 1, and I had a class just an hour ago from 11 to 12. It was the same class. So we have 2 sections of this class. I will probably only post one of them. I'm not going to post the same recording twice because I'm literally talking about the same thing. What I'll probably do is just post whichever recording is smoother and has the best audio and whatnot. But because it's back-to-back lectures and it's literally the same content, I'm only going to post one lecture for each day. So just wanted to throw that out there. All right, homework. So the first couple of weeks, and I'm going to say this a few times in different ways, but the first 2 weeks in this class are going to be a little different just because it's kind of, we're trying to get oriented and introduced to the software. But once we get into the class, like week 3, week 4, week 5, what's typically going to happen is I'm going to assign something on Wednesday that's due the following Monday. And so typically that assignment will be the culmination of an in-class exercise. It's like on Wednesdays, we're going to come in, starting week 3, week 4, we're going to come in. I'm not going to lecture. I'm just going to say, here's the exercise, go to work. And you spend that time during lecture doing the exercise. Most of you, if you're, focusing, you can probably get it done in class, okay? Post the assignment, you're done, okay? If you don't get it done during class, no big deal. It's due the following Monday, okay? So like I said, I use the term homework, but it's really more of an in-class exercise that you submit as a homework, okay? The goal is to get either it done or the vast majority of it done while you're here, okay? That's the goal, okay? If it's late, I do a 20% late penalty, and I don't accept the work after it's been graded. But again, I really don't, you're going to see when we get into this, it's actually kind of difficult to turn work in late because the way the class is structured, I mean, it's sort of designed to be done while you're here. One thing I'll mention, I am usually not, I don't have a problem with giving out homework solutions. The one class that it's kind of difficult to produce a solution for is this class. And the reason why is I'm kind of giving it to you already. So the way this class works, and for those of you that have had a CAD course or had any CAD experience, you probably get what I'm talking about. But it's like our first CAD assignment is going to be, I give you something and I say, do this. I'm giving you the solution. I'm saying do this, So you already have the solution. So really you just need to repeat what's there, okay? So any time that that's not the case, I don't really have an issue giving you the solution. But again, you'll see what I mean when we get into the work. That won't really be necessary for what we do in here. You'll have it on hand. Okay, let's talk about celebrations of learning. We don't have exams in college. We have celebrations of learning. We celebrate twice. one in week 6, one in week 11. And I'm going to pull the calendar up here in a bit. My exams are not intended to be comprehensive. So like I don't, like exam 2 doesn't cover everything that was in exam 1 and all this new stuff. It's not intended. Like each exam is meant to be on its respective material. But there is some material that's just going to bleed over, and there's not really anything I can do about that. So for example, on both exams, spoiler alert, you're going to have to draw some lines. I mean, I'm being silly when I say that, but you had to draw lines on exam 1 and exam 2. That stuff's going to carry over. But exam 2's purpose is going to be its material, you know. So again, I'm not a comprehensive exam guy. I'm also, I'll tell you this, when I developed the way I was going to teach classes, what I did is I made a list of all the stuff that used to annoy me when I was a student, and I said, I'm not going to do that. And one of the things that used to annoy me is when a professor would give an exam that would take 7 hours to do and only give you 50 minutes to do it. I didn't really like that, okay? So I tend to use what's called a rule of 3. And so my rule of 3 says that if I can do the exam, if I can take the exam, if I can do it in 20 minutes, you can do it in 60 minutes. And that's literally what I do. I will make the exam and I will take the exam. And if it takes me longer than 20 minutes, I'll cut material out of it, okay? And I'll be honest, in this class, it's probably more like a rule of 4, not because the exams are any harder, but because I got to throw a little bit of a buffer in case your laptop's slow or whatnot. I try and put some cushion in there. And the exams are really just sort of, I use the term exam, but it's really more like a skill quiz. It's basically just sort of a distilled assignment, a distilled in-class exercise. So, any questions? You good? Oh, good. That's fine. All right. Actually, let me leave it up here for a bit. Okay. Let's talk about technology for the class. Blackboard. I'm going to pull Blackboard up here in a little bit, but I am a religious user of Blackboard, let's just say. I will have pretty much everything that you need in the class on Blackboard. Your grades are going to be posted on Blackboard. The lecture notes, the homework assignments, everything's going to be there. I say here the exams are going to be conducted by Blackboard. That's kind of a half-truth. You're going to have to be here in person for the exam. The way it's going to work is you're going to come to class. I'm going to give you the exam, but you're going to upload your file to Blackboard. So that's what I'm going to grade. So you need your laptop and you need to be able to do it, but the exams are going to be in person. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's talk about Teams. I'm going to be honest. I may use Teams a little bit, like for a backup if we have a live lecture, but I am really going to try and adhere to the schedule that I put forth pretty strictly, let's just say. I can't predict, torrential snowstorms or anything like that, but barring that, we're going to adhere to our schedule pretty in line, okay? Let's see. Let me pull up the syllabus real quick. So I'm going to pull up Blackboard here in a second, but this is the syllabus. I don't really know that there's a whole lot in the Word document that I haven't already talked about. I mean, you can review this, as needed. Maybe the only thing that's worth mentioning is that if I give you an assignment and you can get ChatGPT to do it for you, my hat's off to you. Good luck if you think you can do it. In all seriousness, my philosophy on generative AI is I don't have a super philosophical problem with it. I mean, it's around. It's not going anywhere. Denying that would be like denying reality. But two things worth mentioning is one, I would question its computational accuracy. I went to ChatGPT and gave it 5 numbers, asked it for the standard deviation of those numbers, and it got it wrong, And two, this isn't a writing class. This isn't a programming class. It doesn't really work that way. And you'll see what I mean. You're going to be producing rasterized and vectorized drawing files that right now GPTs just can't really generate. It doesn't really work like that. So again, if you can do it, my hat's off to you, but it'd probably be easier just to do it. Okay, let me pull up the schedule. Okay, and again, this is on Blackboard, so there's nothing here that you can't see on Blackboard. But a couple things about the schedule. So obviously we're not going to meet next Monday due to the holiday. Here is the date of our first exam. It is Wednesday, February 19th. Again, I hold to this schedule barring torrential snowstorms or anything like that. So all like weather, super, stringent weather related issues out of the way, that is when our first exam is. It is Wednesday, February 19th. We will review on Monday and have the exam on Wednesday. And so the review will basically be, here's what's on the exam, and here's a practice, a small practice exam in case you want to kind of get an idea of what it looks like. The way the schedule works for the vast majority of the class, so let's take week 4, for instance. Here, I'll just highlight this. So like on Monday, we'll have a topic-based lecture. So that week, what we're going to do is look at arcs and other object creation, and then we're going to look at layers in AutoCAD. So that's going to be what we do on Monday. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to give you an in-class exercise related to the stuff that we talked about on Monday, and it's due the following Monday. And we just keep going through that pattern, okay? And so the idea of making them due at 5 p.m. the following Monday is so, like Wednesday we'll do the in-class exercise, and then we'll come back Monday and see if there were any big ticket questions that need to get answered so that everybody hears the answer so you can still have time to submit, okay? And the way that my assignment submissions work, you can upload your submission 150 times. I grade the last one. So if you do the assignment, you go, oop, I made a boo-boo, just upload it again. But no big deal, okay? Sound good? All right, so a couple differences. So like I said, if you notice in the schedule, all the assignments are due at 5 p.m. except for a couple differences. Week 1 and week 2 is a little different. They are due at 10 a.m., mainly because I want the assignments done before you come to class. But these assignments are basically just multiple choice quizzes on Blackboard. They're really, really fast. So they will take you about 5 or 10 minutes. What else is different? Oh, week 9. So week 9 is going to be a little different in that it's sort of a hand sketching and free sketching exercise. Instead of making that due after spring break, I purposefully made it due right before spring break because I want you to have a break. I don't want you to have lingering work in this class while you're, enjoying margaritas and Mai Tais. I want you to have a break, okay? So if I want you to have a break, that means I have to have the work submitted to me before you go, right? So that there's nothing due and it's over. Make sense? All right. Now, let's talk about near the end. So we actually, we don't actually spend a lot of time in this class on Inventor, but for those of you that have used Inventor and AutoCAD, if you have a really strong background in AutoCAD, learning Inventor is really fast, okay? For example, one of the first things that we're going to do in Inventor is learn how to create a 3D part. And the simplest way of creating a 3D part is an extrusion. So you create a 2D sketch, and then you extrude it into a 3D shape, right? So like draw a rectangle, extrude it, you have a box, right? Well, if you understand AutoCAD, then drawing that 2D sketch is light work. It's really, really easy. So having that AutoCAD background will make Inventor, you'll fly through it, okay? So we'll go through Inventor very fast. In week 12 or week 13, I'm going to give you your final homework. That final homework, it looks ominous. It looks like it's this massive amount of work. It's really not. And you could probably start to finish, sit down and knock out that final assembly in a couple hours. It's really not that much work. But it is due Wednesday at 5 p.m. during finals week. We don't meet during finals week. It's just a final assignment. It's not even worth much more than all the other assignments. It's just, let's just have this final assignment due, be done. Sound good? And then, again, the second exam is going to be Wednesday, April 2nd. So the two exams are both on Wednesday. One's on February 19th, one's on April 2nd. And again, those are not going to change. If there's any topic that I eliminate due to, tornadoes or earthquakes or hurricanes or snowstorms, it'll be the topic in week 9. That'll be the one I eliminate. So, sound good? Okay. All right. So, okay. All right. So, The two main software packages we're going to use in this class are AutoCAD 2025 and then Inventor 2025. I've put instructions to install. I know that there's a couple students that have had issues with it. I'm curious to review the attendance survey to see like if it was more global or whatnot. I'll mention a couple troubleshooting tips on that here in a bit. AutoCAD is probably more important that you get working now. We're not going to be using Inventor until after spring break. I have instructions for how to install that. I also have instructions for how to access Cameo on Blackboard. I'll pull that up here in a second. But what I'll say is, for those of you with Macs, you are going to have to use Cameo to access Inventor. And even for those of you without Macs, it's probably a good idea to make sure that you're at least comfortable with it, because if you're ever having an off software day, like a licensing issue or anything like that, then Cameo would be a nice thing to have in your back pocket. Okay. I mentioned something about the Friday help sessions, so let me sort of make the point. There are two sections of this class. So there was a section that met an hour ago, Monday, Wednesday, 11 to 12. And then there's this section that's meeting Monday, Wednesday, 12 to 1. So that begs the question, what about Fridays? Like if we meet Monday, Wednesday at both sections, what about the Friday section? Okay, we don't meet as a class on Fridays, but I imagine most of you have openings in your schedule because, I mean, most classes are Monday, Wednesday, Friday to 11 or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 12 to 1, something like that. So most of you probably don't have something on your schedule. There are a few of you that might have a lab that traverses, but my point is, if you need me, I'm available during that time slot. So what I did, I blocked my calendar off 11 to 1, just as if I would have a class, basically say I'm not going to be around. And I've booked 3235 in the engineering building for a CAD help session. And it's basically for the people in this class. Most of the time what happens, and this is what happened last year, I did the same thing last year, the students that showed up to the help sessions were the ones that might have had like a laptop issue or like a software glitch and whatnot. And if they needed help, with an assignment and whatnot, they'd come in. I want to be crystal clear. You are not required to come on Friday. And if you're done, you're done. That's with the work, you're done. So like, let's say it's week 5. I give you an in-class exercise in week 5 and you finish it and submit it. I'll see you on Monday. You don't have to be here. There's not even enough room in 3235 for 120 people. There isn't. But mainly it's like if you missed class on Wednesday, if you were a student athlete, you weren't able to make it or something like that. That's what the Friday sessions are there for. If you need help on assignment, that's what the Friday sessions are for. I also have office hours Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 to 3, and Tuesday, Thursday by appointment. I say by appointment. I'm also the associate dean, so I'm always hopping around, fixing stuff. So if you need me on Tuesday, Thursday, I would probably make sure I'm available because I might be just busy. So okay. So our typically weekly pattern, this is starting in week 3, is Monday. I'm going to teach you how to do something. And so Monday I'll come in with like a guided tutorial. It might be AutoCAD, might be Inventor, might be by hand. There might be a combination of slides and handouts, but mostly it's going to be us just working through this tutorial together and me showing you how to do some things. So like I'll show you how to do something and I'll walk around, make sure everybody's comfortable with it, and we'll just move on and whatnot. And then Wednesday, I will give you a self-guided in-class exercise. So Wednesday, I'm going to come in, take attendance, give you the exercise, maybe say a few points, and that's it. Like Wednesday is largely going to be me being quiet, other than walking around seeing how everybody's doing with the homework. And speaking of, that exercise serves as a homework. So like the first in-class exercise, you do the work, upload it to Blackboard, you're done. Okay, that's sort of the idea. Make sense? Okay, like I said, that pattern's going to be the case for most of the semester, except for weeks 1 and week 2, and then I guess except for the exams. But even during the exam weeks, Monday's going to be an exam review, Wednesday's going to be the exam. So again, I want to try and make this class as structured and pattern-based as possible. Sound good? So what do I need from you? Okay, there's a lot of people in this class. There's a lot of people in the last section. So what do I need from you? I need you to be here, be on time. I'm not so worried about that today because, again, we're not in the engineering building, and some of you probably never been in this room. So this is my first time teaching in this room myself. So I get it. I'll pull the QR code up again for anybody that missed it today. I'm not counting anybody late today. Okay. Have your laptops fired up at the start of class. This is particularly important starting in week 3. And have AutoCAD or Inventor ready to go. And you'll know, like, we won't need Inventor until later, but have AutoCAD available. And please, I do ask that everybody is here with us as a group. And by that, I mean no Twitch, no March Madness, no Chem 2 lab reports, no English 200 texting the world essay. Just be here for 50 minutes. And I'll be honest, that's actually more for your benefit. Like on Wednesdays, if you're focused and doing the in-class exercise, you won't have any homework because you'll have it done, right? And I know when I was an engineering student, weeks that I didn't have homework in classes were good weeks. So I want you here and attentive. What else do I need? By the end of the week, have AutoCAD and Inventor installed. AutoCAD's definitely more important. If I know that a couple of you are having issues, if you're having issues, you can come on Friday and we can troubleshoot this and see what's going on. The other thing is you can make an appointment with Hussein. Now, where is Hussein? He's literally in the office right next to mine. So if you know where my office is, you know where Hussein's office is. He's right next door. This is what Hussein looks like. I put his email address right here. It's alquazli1. I would say 2 things. If you need Hussein, I really would strongly suggest you schedule a meeting in advance, largely because he's the IT guy for the whole college. He is running around fixing problems. And so if you come all the way to campus and go to his office and he's not there because he's fixing stuff, you might be disappointed. So make sure and schedule an appointment in advance. And that's, again, for you. The other thing is I would attempt to try and install the program prior to seeing him. I mean, imagine if you're waiting in line to see him and there's 4 students in front of you who never even tried to install it. You'd probably be pretty annoyed, right? So I want everybody to at least give it the old college try. Again, it's okay if there's an issue and whatnot. We can work that out. Hussein's got access to manage our institutional account in the background. So if you're having any issues and whatnot, he can help you out. Okay, let me pull up a couple things on Blackboard just to show you how Blackboard's going to be organized, and then I'll open the floor, see if anybody has any questions. So here's Blackboard for the class. If you open it right now, this should be what it looks like. I'm under student preview. So a couple things that you'll see. First off, if you click the course syllabus, this is the course syllabus, and you'll see here's the document, and then I've got the schedule. So that Excel sheet, it's all there for everybody to see, okay? And so it'll show what day we're on, what our topic in the class is, what work was due that day, what work was assigned that day. So you'll know literally every day what's going on when, okay? This is a link to the YouTube playlist. So if you click that, it takes you straight to YouTube. I don't have any videos here now because this is day 1. I'm recording this. Again, I have 2 Engineering 102 sections. I will probably only post one of those lectures here because, again, I'm saying the same thing twice. And if I was a betting man, I'm probably going to post this one today. So let's see. I have here the instructions for installing the Autodesk products. This is the same email that I sent everybody with all that information. That's all here. And then also the instructions for accessing Cameo. Again, I think that even if you have a Windows machine, it's probably worthwhile to check this out. The most, I mean, we used this last year, and the one thing that sort of tripped everybody up was how to save things. So that's why I have a specific section on how to save and access files. What it basically requires you to do is install OneDrive, okay? So if you haven't installed your Marshall OneDrive to your computer, I would do so. For one, it's just useful. I mean, you get like a terabyte of storage for free, but it's how you save Cameo files, so you kind of need it. Okay, the other thing I'll mention is that if you look at the very bottom here, it says Week 1 Course Overview and Engineering Drawing Basics. So from week to week, you're going to see like a Week 2 folder, Week 3, Week 4, Week 5. And inside each of those folders is going to be the lecture notes, the tutorial files. We aren't going to have tutorials until week 3, so you don't have to worry about that until then. But the lecture notes, the tutorial files, and the assignments. So the assignment for week 1 will be in that folder. The assignment for week 2, the assignment for week 3, they'll all be inside those folders. I'll even show you what it looks like. Like this is my view, and if you look here, you can see like there's the assignment for week 1. It's in there. I saw some things I need to adjust to it, but it'll become visible on Wednesday. So, and then if you go to the grade book, there's no grades posted now, but you can see your current grade, and you can see it's already computing that based on the weight in the class. So again, on a pretty much a real-time basis, I mean, you're going to know what your grade is. I mean, you're going to have to give me a little bit of time today to post the attendance, but I typically try and keep it pretty regular in terms of knowing what your grade is. I want you to know on a pretty real-time basis what your grade is. Okay. I'm going to stop talking for 1 second and see if there's any questions from the class. Anybody have any questions? Everybody kind of have an understanding how the class is going to operate? Everybody good? Anybody want a final exam? That was a joke, not a funny one. I can make one if you want. There we go. I was waiting for somebody to say something. My goodness. All right. Okay. So I'm going to say a couple words about like why you're in this class, and then I'll let you go. I tend to like to close my first day lecture with why you're in a class, because you all are spending not only your valuable time, but your cash money to be in this room right now. And beyond the whole, well, I want an engineering degree and the pattern sheet said I needed to take this class, I do want you to have a little bit of an understanding as to why you're in here. Okay, I do a lot of chats with prospective students, parents, high school kids that are thinking of coming to Marshall and thinking of majoring in engineering. And sometimes I'll get asked just, what is engineering? And I could give you some, long encyclopedia style definition for what engineering is. But the short answer is that we solve problems. And really the only difference between a civil engineer, a mechanical engineer, a biomedical engineer, we just solve different problems. That's pretty much it, okay? We might, now let's dig into that a little bit. How do we solve problems? Well, we use math, we use science, we use physics, we use chemistry to apply solutions to real world problems. There's that. But then what? I mean, let's say I'm a mechanical engineer and I design a widget or a gizmo to solve some particular problem. Okay, what do I do with that? Well, ultimately I would like that widget or gizmo to be fabricated, to be built, to be used, right? So it is the responsibility, it falls on an engineer to convey that information to whoever's going to implement it, the contractor, the manufacturer, the fabricator, okay? How do we do that? We do that with engineering drawings. We do that with specifications. It is the methods that we learn in this class are the means by which an engineer communicates their design to somebody that's going to be implementing it. So if you want to know why you're in this class, that's why, okay? As a consequence of that, there are specific principles that our drawings must adhere to in order for this whole process to work. For example, any engineering drawing or set of drawings that we produce must be unambiguous. They must be non-contradictory. Now, that might seem like it makes sense, but you'd be surprised how many errors you'll find in engineering schematics because they refer to the same part in two different places and they have different dimensions. Which one do you use, that one or this one? That's an error. It can't be contradictory. The drawings need to be complete in that you draw a widget or gizmo, that drawing should contain literally every piece of information necessary to fabricate it. Nothing should be missing, okay? They need to be consistent. They need to be logical, okay? Engineering projects are complicated. All right, this is an image of a relatively small office building complex, and I guarantee you the plan set for that building probably is in the 200-300 page mark, easily, just of all the details. In fact, our plan reading exercise that we are going to do later this semester is going to be reviewing the plans for the engineering building. They're huge. They're really huge. So much so that we're only going to review a selected set of sheets from those plans, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. I should mention or a few notes about what can go wrong. And so this is an article from this is a long time ago. This is from about 20 years ago. This is from the Genesis Dizzy probe crash. This is an article from New Scientist magazine. Has anybody heard of this? Just curious. Okay, so this was a probe that NASA launched for some research purposes, and what happened was the probe was re-entering Earth's atmosphere, and it just crashed, and much of the payload was lost. And I'll just tell you, the amount of time, of money, of effort that goes into one of these projects, it's mind-boggling just to see it all just go away. It must have been a very sad day at NASA. And also a very tense day at Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin was, I believe, the contractor on this project. Anybody heard of Lockheed? They're a big defense contractor and whatnot. So what was supposed to happen was there were these little cylindrical switches, and they sort of acted like a gyroscope, where what they would do is at any given point they would tell the probe what its orientation was. The problem was they were drawn upside down, so it was thinking down was up and up was down. So when it was plummeting and crashing to the earth, the system thought everything was fine because it was thinking backwards, and it crashed. And now here's the thing. This is, we can look at this and in any ways, we can almost kind of maybe laugh about it a little bit because it seems like a really silly mistake. But I should mention that that these mistakes can have some pretty dire consequences. Has anybody heard of the Hyatt Regency walkway collapse? Anybody heard of that?
Is it like the Sky Hall?
Yes. If you haven't heard of that, you ought to look it up, the Hyatt Regency walkway collapse. To date, the worst structural failure in U.S. history under its design load. So a little bit different than extreme events like Oklahoma City or 9/11. But the reason for the failure was a difference between what was designed and what was built, okay? And over 100 people lost their lives as a result. So this is some pretty serious stuff, So just worth mentioning. I've used CAD for about 20 years, and I just want to give you some closing observations, particularly as we negotiate this class. The first is that we're going to get into the weeds in some of our programs. CAD can be intimidating, at least the first time that you use it. But I think that with time, you'll find CAD to be more of a valuable resource than something to be scared of. And that's really my goal. I want CAD to be something that you go, oh, I need to solve this. Let me open up my CAD package. Not, I have to open up CAD. I want the former reaction, not the latter. Okay? Because I want CAD to be something that you feel like will be valuable to you. Like I said, I've been using CAD for 20 years, and I think that the fundamentals are more important than mastering every button or feature. Like, you'd be surprised how much you can get done with very little on the command side of things. You don't need to use every button, every feature, every command for every project, okay? We spend like almost the entirety of week 3 just learning how to draw a line. And it might sound like a dry thing to think about, but I don't know if you've noticed a lot of these engineering drawings, they have a lot of lines on them, And if you understand how to draw a line, like if you don't understand how to draw a line, you're gonna have a hard time with CAD. That's why we spend so much time on it. There is often more than one way to do a certain thing, but some ways are more optimal than others. And that's okay. That comes with practice. And speaking of, practice makes perfect. The more you use this stuff, the better you get at it. It's why the assignments are worth so much in this class in terms of grade, because the only way you learn this is to do it. And finally, if you're working on this stuff and you make a mistake, it's okay. Any mistake, any error can be corrected. The escape key will be your friend. Okay. Any questions? All right, I'm going to pull up the QR code for everybody to scan in case they missed it. And if I could get a volunteer or two to stick around for a couple minutes to move some of these tables, I'd really appreciate it. That's all I got. I'll see you on Wednesday.